Alright, welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and the 1/48 scale Hobby Boss M4A3. Where I left off in the other video, the last video, I had the whitewash done, streaking, some dirt, oil, and fuel stains, and then I started working on the tracks and the lower hull. So with the tracks, what I did, I don't know if you remember, but I had some problems with the paint flaking off. So what I did, the outside was okay, the inside is where I had the problem. So I just resprayed it with some Tamiya XF69 NATO Black just to get some color on it. Then I installed them onto the vehicle so I could get them muddied up with the rest of the running gear and lower hull. So what I used for that was Vallejo pigments, light sienna, mixed up with some Vallejo pigment binder. Mixed that up, made it not super thin, but not thick enough to leave real huge texture, but it had a little bit of texture to it. So I put that on the whole lower part and high up inside the lower hull on the front here. Then, after that dried really well, overnight actually, then I mixed up another round of the pigment, but I added a few drops of Vallejo acrylic dark brown wash and black wash. I think I just did one drop of that just to give it a little bit of darkness to it, just to give it some difference. And I did it mainly on the lower parts of the hull and on the lower parts of the bogie assemblies and on the wheels, and then on the lower portion of the hull. Then I took, once that dried again overnight, I used the dark brown again, and I just ran some kind of a thin wash in the grooves, nooks and crannies all around the running gear and on the back part of the vehicle, and let that dry. So I used Ultimate Modeling Products light dirt gray wash, or not gray but light dirt wash, and put that on the tracks on the inside just to give it some dirt and filth. So once all that dried, then I started working with the Vallejo engine line acrylic oil stains, and for that I'm using it in an unorthodox method. I'm using that to create the wet effect on the lower portions of the hull. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, it darkened it up and it left a sheen on there, and that's what I want. So what I'm going to do is, again, this is purely experimental, so people may look at it and say, man, you're out of your mind, dude, that's not what that's for. Well, this is experimental. I'm trying to use what I have on hand because I know there's mud effects and water effects and all that kind of stuff, but I'm seeing if what I have works. So I'm going to go around the rest of the vehicle, on the bogies, on the lower parts of the hull, lower parts of the bogies, wheels, and some in the tracks, just to give it a wet appearance, like it has run through some somewhat fresh mud recently. And then once that dries, then I can do the metal portion of the cleats, and it'll be nearing completion. So just as a quick example, I've got some of my oil wash in here. As you can see, it's a lot thicker than a normal wash, and again, a lot of you are probably thinking, yeah, we already know this, why are you telling us? Well, some people don't know it. And then I'm applying it quite liberally on the lower portions where I think the mud would be wettest. Okay, and it's kind of seeping in the corners and stuff, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm putting it on pretty heavy because I want it to maintain that sheen. I don't want it to soak up into this this pigment too much. Make sure use the Q-tip to get it out of the loop of the clevis there. Try and be somewhat random. I don't want it to be real even and neat looking, so once I get up near the edges, I'll speckle it up a little bit more. Alright, so I think that'll work pretty good. If it doesn't, well, then I'll know not to do it next time. But, you know, I'm all for experimentation and trying different stuff. So I'm going to go on and do the rest of the sides here and then come back. Alright, so here we have it. I finished up the wet effects on the tracks and the running gear and such, and I did the highlighting the cleats with some silver bare metal color, and I added a little bit more mud splashed up on the... Alright, so here it is. I finished up the wet effect around the bottom using the engine oil wash. Turned out okay. First time doing any kind of wet effect on a vehicle, so tell me what you think below, but this is pretty much it. This is a kit of firsts, which all my kits seem to be that these days. I added some more mud up on the side using the Vallejo pigments just to break it up, because after I got that done, I was looking at it, I thought, man, it looks like two separate kits. So that's it. That is the Hobby Boss 1/48 scale M4A3 76 wet. It was a fun kit. Again, this is first for me, the wet effect, and this is the first time I've ever done a whitewash. So I've got some perfecting to do on the whitewash, but I do like the way it turned out. I'm pretty stoked with it for my first one. So my thoughts on the kit are this. As I noted early on, I just happened to see this in my local big box hobby / craft retailer, and I thought, hey, I'm going to try this out. My son built a Tamiya 1/48 scale Sherman Firefly, so I kind of had something to compare it to as far as quality, and the quality on this Hobby Boss kit is pretty good. For the most part, it was pretty good. There was a little bit of flash, not too drastic, nothing that wasn't, you know, fixable, but the detail is really pretty good, especially for this scale. Everything went together pretty much as it should. The only part that really didn't fit the way I would have liked is the front hole right here. You can see some weird like slot things. I could have filled those in, but since, you know, this was kind of an experiment, see what I could do with this kit to begin with, I didn't bother, and it's not really that noticeable. I mean, if somebody really knows a lot about Shermans and, you know, knows a lot about models, they would notice it, but it's okay. The tools, nice. All of the detail is really good. Now, if I were doing this again, and I do plan on doing another 1/48 scale kit in the future, Hobby Boss does make different versions of the M4 series, so there's a few different ones to choose from. But, you know, ways a person could detail is to cut off these molded, you know, plate type handles and replace them with wire. And I'm sure there's, you know, some other things that could be done. But overall, really nice. The photo etch, I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised by the photo etch. It was really easy to work with. It wasn't too thin. and it didn't kink or anything when I bent it to shape. The parts that come in the kit are the headlight guards on both sides, the siren guard, and the taillight guards. Now it also comes with some periscope guards that go over the periscopes, but this particular kit didn't call for them, and I know some of these vehicles didn't have them, so I didn't use them. But you know, the photo etch was really kind of nice, and not a whole lot of it, just those few pieces and then some chain, little bits of chain for one of the other versions. I like the fact that it came with 2 turrets, so you could do 2 different layouts. You could either go with the commander's cupola and a split hatch, or the oval hatch for the loader, which is what I did. But other than that, not a whole lot. The tracks lame. I don't like them at all. These truly are vinyl, and I haven't worked with actual vinyl tracks in a while, and you get kind of spoiled even with the flexible styrene type that Tamiya has been putting in their kits, and Dragon puts in theirs. The track's called DS tracks, because they hold paint a lot better than this will. And early on I thought the paint was going to hold nicely, and I did prime it and then paint it, but when I painted it, the paint just totally lifted. I don't know if it soaked through or what, but it totally lifted the primer and paint off, especially from the inside. The outside not so much, but the inside it did. So, you know, I dealt with it though, and I got through it, so it turned out okay. So the Hobby Boss 1/48 scale M4A3 was a fun kit. I liked it. Would I build another? Yes, I would. Would I recommend it? Yes, I would. It's not quite as nice as the Tamiya kit. Now, I will give it that. The Tamiya kit was just, when my son built that one, it was just really a dialed kit. But, you know, that's Tamiya. But the Hobby Boss kit can be built up very nicely, and a person with more skills than mine could probably really make a ripping kit out of it. So anyway, that's it. That is the conclusion of this series of videos. I hope you all enjoyed the journey, so to speak. And if you have any questions or comments or anything, please put them in the comments below. And until next time, I will see you later.